So I'm really excited to present the why behind your brand. Oh, perfect. Here's a handout for you. Yeah, thanks for coming. Here's a hand. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. So, what was so awesome for me this morning, just getting around and introducing myself to people, were the diversity of groups and businesses represented with this conference, right? How awesome to get everybody together. What's doubly exciting for a marketer is trying to find the common thread when you're talking about wine growers. We've got beekeepers, hop growers, Christmas tree farm, every aspect of producers, right? I got to meet Drew this morning, a producer up from Cedar Falls, and Carrie from Cedar Falls hops. Okay, so trying to find what's common to all those things, you might say, well, yeah, it's Iowa, that's fair, but I would go a step further. Everybody here is passionate. They're passionate to produce. And what we're producing is those industry-leading specialty products and crops in America's heartland. I don't need to tell you that. That's something that we all share in common. What I'm hoping to tell you today are that these producers, everybody in this room, we're talking about big idea people, right? People who come in and say, you know what, I want things to be different for this. I want to produce a crop differently than everybody else. I want to really make a difference. Producers, all of us in this room, are big idea people. The disconnect, I would suggest, is that sometimes producers don't necessarily understand the needs of their customers. And that gap between the two is growing bigger and bigger every single day. Oh, here's a copy for you. Thanks for coming. Oh, you're good. It's getting bigger and bigger every single day because customers have perfect information. Or so they think, right? They can go to the internet and they can pretty much figure out the difference between you and your next nearest 10 competitors, not only regionally, but multi-state or nationwide. And so they're coming at you with information almost that puts you kind of on the defensive sometimes because they want you. Thanks for coming. There you go. Perfect. They want you to not sell them. They want you to come in with information that helps them to make an evaluation of whether or not you'll be a good partner for them. And only then will they make the decision to be your customer. So I just want to ground everybody in the fact that customers buy product, but they really choose stories. Now, what's the difference there? You could have 10 hop producers. You could have 10 specialty crop producers. What's the difference between them? Sometimes it's price. Sometimes it's service. Sometimes it's relationships. But if you are a new customer for any one of those 10 specialty producers, the difference is going to be the story that you tell them. The story that you tell them about what you stand for, how your products are different, what makes you different than the next 9 competitors down the street, across the state, whatever your geography. These stories are essentially marketing. And sometimes I don't use the term marketing because people think, marketing, it's scary. I know products, I know how to produce, but marketing, that's foreign to me. I can't measure it. I can't tell that I put $10 in and got $10 out. I hear those concerns all the time, which is why I like to use storytelling. And it's been used earlier in today's presentation by John, and it'll be used again throughout the rest of the conference. Storytelling is a way to get your product out in front of people and stand out from a crowded market. So what we're going to accomplish today, we want to give you a unique story. Thing is, we're really giving you the tools you need to tell your own story in a more effective and engaging way. The stories are yours. I don't fabricate stories for you. What I tried to do is help bring those stories to light so that you can celebrate them. You can put it on all of your marketing materials. You can take it to your sales pitch. Wherever you can tell that story to get that customer, we help you get the tools you need to tell that in a really good way, because we want to increase traffic, increase engagement, and capture new sales for you. And then we really want to help you have that confidence in your internal team, because the last thing that we want is to say, you need outside marketing help to do this. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't have the team inside to get this done for you. But a lot of us are DIY folks. We do it ourselves. And so you have a team, you have a family, you're all in, you wear 20 different hats. I get it. We want you to have the tools to be able to make the decision for yourself, whether or not you market your craft or you have somebody help you do that. The point is that you need to tell your story. So I was introduced, and I appreciate the introduction. I'm a marketing advisor. I've worked for a couple fun companies and a couple neat industries, and I, again, certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak here at this conference, because it's a stretch. It's a stretch for me. It's new products, new customers, new business lines and industries. But what's common, again, is that storytelling, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You need to be able to tell your story well in order to stand out in the crowded market, any of the industries that you're in. And so we're going to go through the why of your brand, and you're going to leave with a solid idea of how to tell your story, with immediate action items that you can take back to your crew. We're going to talk about your origin, the mission of your business, what the vision is for your employees, how you really give them the kind of energy to be ambassadors for you. Talk about your business. This is going to seem fundamental, but actually we're going to dig a little bit deeper than just the surface level. Then we're going to tell that story. Hi there. Here's a copy for you. Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming. Then we're going to tell that story, and then we're going to talk about your position relative to your competitors. Now, my goal is not to hit you with a lot of information. It's to give you 2 or 3 things that you can really leave with today, 2 or 3 tools that you can immediately take back. And if some of these words, if we get lost in translating some of these words, just ask, just raise your hand, tell me what that means. I don't want this to be scary or unapproachable to anybody, which is why I put my baby pictures up there. It's always fun to go back through folders and boxes and find these photos of when I was 2, 3, 4 years old. And the only reason I put this up, aside from the fact that I was a pretty cute baby, I was always the tallest one in my class, and my dad, great relationship with my family, grew up in Ohio, they're still there. I was born. Okay, that's what we all share in common too. That's our origin story. We were all born. Now, as silly as that sounds, the point I'm bringing up here is that your origin story for your business has to be bigger than I started in my basement. It has to be unique. It has to be differentiated. It can't be, it was a hobby that turned professional. Everybody says that. I mean, we all share a lot of this in common. We weren't, for the most part, given our business, handed our business. We worked hard to get there. What is that story for you? Bigger than I started as a hobby and started in my basement. So the first part of this, again, is I would challenge you. I would challenge you to go back and ask the question of your team. A lot of us are the owners of our respective businesses, completely get it. You know how you started. You know your story. But you know it from your perspective. And sometimes that doesn't really mean anything to a customer. And we have to be okay with that fact. It's not a pride thing. It's not that, the story doesn't mean anything to them. It's just you need to tell it in a different way so they can connect with it. When you've got a competitive marketplace, they're going to connect with a brand that tells a story that lines up with who they are as a customer because they want to feel proud to be working with you. They're going to spend a lot of money. They're going to spend a lot of time. They don't want to feel like they made the wrong decision. So they want a brand that lines up with who they are as a customer, what they stand for. I would ask you, go beyond starting in my basement. Why did you do it? What were you thinking at the time? Were you nervous? Of course, yeah. Who was involved? Was it family? Did you have to get investors? Whatever that story, just keep peeling it back a couple layers. Because what might be just, common to you, oh yeah, of course it was the economy and the geography and my wife and we got pregnant. And so when you keep going down that line, then you start to unfold a story that actually makes you stand out from the next 9 competitors in the state, right? This is going to help you stand out in the market. Now, we have a couple prompts, and the prompts could be, again, your origin story might have been geography-based. We all have a passion here for Iowa, and I completely get that. Okay, well now what is it about Iowa? Was it your family grew up here? Did you open up your first business? Was your first business a success, or was it a challenge, or did you have to scrap it? There's no shame in starting 5 businesses before the 6th one was successful. That's a story. And it talks about your resilience as a person, as a business person, what you're giving back to Iowa. All of these things become little chapters in a bigger story that you could be telling in a business pitch. You walk into a new customer and they want to know immediately what you have to offer them. Okay, well, here's what I have in product, and here's why that product makes sense for you. Hobby, again, go a little bit deeper than brewing in your basement. Passion, we're all very passionate, but unlock that a little bit. What does that mean? How would you consider yourself passionate about your specialty crop? Family, friends. Sometimes people just want to jump out of corporate, and I certainly get that. You work a 9 to 5 for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with this. And so I go completely left field, and I purchased 2,000 acres and started a farm. Okay. Well, I'm just throwing that number out. I started growing heirloom tomatoes in my backyard. Maybe that's a little more approachable. Whatever the case may be, there's a story behind your business that deserves to be told, and most oftentimes it's not. I've checked out a lot of your websites, to be honest, just in prep for this, because I wanted to have these conversations. I wanted to be open and honest with people about an objective perspective on your business, because if me living in Denver, Colorado comes in and I can't figure out what you folks do that's different from the competitors, how can someone in Iowa who's familiar with this space more so than I ever will be, how can you convince them? All right. I had an amazing conversation with Norman Marcia about Cedar River, right?
Rustic River.
Rustic River, I apologize. Rustic River in Lakeview. Now, their son, the first day he goes to college, gets taken on a wine tour, and he's hooked at that point, calls home and says, you know what, we really should think about this. They think, yeah, you know, this is going to subside. He's going to let this one go, and 4 years later after he graduates, he's still just as passionate about it, and now they own a winery. Now, see, this is an origin story that we can relate to in some way or the other. Just like Red Bull. Everybody knows the story of Red Bull, and if you don't, the co-founder was flying back from Germany after a long trip. He drank a drink that was called Red Bison, translated into English. It cured his jet lag, and he decides, you know what, there's something here. And we all know the end result of that story. Huge, huge business. Now, taking a look even at a local level, we saw that the sweet corn stand started as a college fund for their daughters, which is something that I found very sweet on the website. And these are the kind of stories that people actually grab onto. And it's something that you can speak to when you've got new visitors to your tasting room, or you've got a customer pitch that you're working on. You know, connect them at an emotional level. People buy emotionally. They buy rationally, and they connect emotionally. This is a very important thing that most of our sales pitches don't include. How are we doing? Good? Half of us or more hopefully know that this is maybe about season 5 of the original Mission Impossible. This is their crew. The only reason I bring this slide up is because it was a very common phrase forever, your mission should you choose to accept it, right? It just became part of our vernacular. Now, I am not suggesting that any of your mission statements should be quite as explosive or whatever as the Mission Impossible crew, because you know they tend to get into some hairy situations. But the point of a company mission is, and we're looking at these things that you know maybe you already have in place. I can appreciate that. Maybe you don't, or maybe it's verbal but not written. Some of these things, if you actually write them on the wall and people, your team walks by it every day, they start to feel it. It becomes part of who they are. They're proud to walk into a company that has a clear mission and vision statement. They know where the company is going. So what do you do for your customers, your employees, your owners? What promises do you make? It's not just about providing great product. What's your level of service? How do you interact? How do you engage? How quick are you to respond to customer service? These are the types of things that we all are busy, and I get the 40, 60, 80-hour weeks. I completely get it. Some of these things that we're walking through now are a half-day offsite with your family or the board or the executives. It doesn't take a ton of time to do, but it will have years of benefit to you because it's a true north. It's a direction. It's creating a code for yourself, your family, your employees that may not have been there before. And it's something that once you've empowered your team, and you'll see this later, once you've empowered your team to make decisions for themselves, if they have this kind of direction, then you can trust them that much more because they will be acting as a unit and not acting individually. So customers shop brands that align with their values. And we see this every single day with respect to especially healthy eating. I don't need to tell you this, but people are buying based on how brands make them feel. How transparent are brands about sourcing? Ingredients in food. This is not a micro trend. This is a macro trend that will be here. And we need to be able to address it. Transparency is the opportunity for you to tell that story and for customers to buy into what you're selling rather than you selling them and forcing them to make the decision on the spot. This gives them idea of what your direction is. what the future holds for your company. What's 3 years out? What do you see the trends in your particular crop or product? It gives everybody on your team an opportunity to make decisions for themselves because you've given them a template to do so. What success looks like. Everybody's got alignment in your company, in your family, in your group, however large your organization. It talks about the change, what's ahead, as well as how you handle change. How do you handle times of stress on your business? Something that we don't really plan for, but just imagine if something catastrophic happens with regards to the weather and a crop is lost during the year. I certainly hope that you don't have that experience, but if you do or if you have, then you would know that change is inevitable. But to be able to deal with it quickly and in a very planned way means possibly the difference between you making it through it or you going under. Now, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm really just hopefully stating what is the obvious. You have to plan for some of these things with strategy and even opportunities for improvement. If you've been around for 5 days or 50 years as a business, there's always opportunity for improvement and change, evolution of your business, and having an idea of where your business is going, not only as a customer, but internally to your employees is very important. Patagonia does this really well. Again, I try to balance out the out of industry with inside industry examples. And Patagonia, build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm, use business to inspire, and then implement those solutions to the environmental crisis. It's a long sentence, but that is absolutely what that brand stands for. I mean, we should all be so lucky to have that kind of clarity with our business, our products, and our purpose. And I'm not saying that it has to be pretty like this. They obviously took a lot of time, but you can see, hopefully, how that one statement, whatever you do or don't know about Patagonia, seems like their entire business lines up with exactly that. Now, Geisler Farms, I mean, it was just a neat story to me, and so I had to dig a little deeper. And then I saw the corn maze, and how the corn maze is annual, and it's thematic. And these things supported for me what they state on their website about giving people those amazing farm memories. All right, they could just say that they were a pumpkin farm with, mazes and thematic holiday stuff, or they could go deeper to say, this is why we're in business. You can love or you can hate Starbucks. I get it. I did some work with Starbucks, and I think that they're an amazing company in a lot of ways, and also there are some challenges, no doubt. What you can't argue with is their model. And for how many stores that they have open, there is such a process of making sure that their team members know exactly what the service needs to be every single day, every single customer. Maybe your local one is not the best. That could be an anomaly, but for the most part, you're going to have the same experience in a Starbucks anywhere around the world. And that's very deliberate because they have the vision. Gesundheit. And the vision, similar to the mission, the customer really sees. It's the direction that the company is headed. And the vision, a lot of times, is just inside to us. Nobody needs to know, as a business, what we're scared about. Nobody needs to know what we're dealing with or the expansion that we're going to go through. That's us. That's for us to know. The fact is that the owners, the family members, whoever is at the top of that business just needs to give everybody else the right view into, here's the inner workings of the business, here's where we're going, this is the vision, and this is the kind of inspiration that the team needs, again, in order to make those decisions for themselves, because you want to empower the people that work with you. The only way that you can do that is by, opening up the curtain a little bit and letting them see inside. And it's easy to see how you can do this. You really want to be concise and specific about the direction that you're headed, using simple statements. It should be ambitious. You should have that goal that's out there, and everybody should know about it, whether it's a sales goal, an expansion goal, new crops, new products, new geographies, distribution, if we're talking about wine and spirits. I mean, there's a lot of business vision that can be shared with the employees to get them to a spot where they're making decisions on your behalf. And a couple examples of that, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Zappos. Now, Zappos is driven by service, and that is all based on the vision of the founder. From the very beginning, you could say, Amazon bought them, they've changed. I get it. Maybe they have. But I've been to the Zappos headquarters, I met the founder, and what is true at the time, and I still think today, is that every employee believes that they are empowered to give whatever contact they have with the customer, that customer is going to get the best experience of their life. And if you've ever called them to return a pair of shoes, you might end up spending a half hour talking to them about the weather that they're getting and, Las Vegas now, but or the weather you're getting and it's warm in Las Vegas, or the particular phone operator's daughter just went to a second grade basketball game and they won. It doesn't matter what they talk about, but they want to make sure that you leave that phone conversation absolutely happy and thrilled that you're a Zappos customer. They're going to do everything, and Zappos has given them the freedom to do that. Something that I saw with Redfern Farm was just that commitment to sustainability. And a lot of us would say that. A lot of us are in that mindset that we don't want to do harm to the environment where we can avoid it. And most of us have gotten the right certifications, some of us even organic. I get that, but they seem to, from what I saw from the website and other social efforts, they seem to communicate that in most of their messages to the consumer. And so they're consistent about it. And if you continue to promote that idea of sustainability at a deeper personal level, then customers will start seeing that as, that is a differentiator. That's something that not everybody is saying. So that's a reason, again, to lean towards Fern Farm, potentially, opposed to the 9 other competitors. Now, a Glad trash bag, you never thought that would make it to a slide in my presentation, or why it's relevant. But this is about business. Now, consumer packaged goods are no different from specialty crops in this way, because I could stop at they make trash bags as a definition of their business. Would you stop at I make soybeans? I mean, maybe you are right now. I would suggest that the story of your business goes much deeper than that, just like the story of Glad trash bags. This is a Force Flex, and a Force Flex trash bag, supposedly, it doesn't have an odor, it doesn't tear, it cinches around the top, it's completely fitted to your trash bin. All right, they go one step deeper than I'm a trash bag company to talk about the feeling that you get if you take out a awful bag that's breaking, that stinks, that, right? They connected with you personally, even selling trash bags. We would ask you, beyond soybeans in this example, what's your product or service? Are you providing something different than just the tangible? And we want to engage a customer emotionally as well as physically. They want a soybean, but they also want the fact that you're a family-run company that has been doing it for 30 years. It's into the second generation. They want to know that the soybeans are produced in this particular manner, processed this way, completely natural. Whatever you're doing to set yourself apart and your product apart, they would like to see this. They deserve to see this. And if they're not already, they'll be asking for it. And we really take a look at it in this way. It starts out with the company. We're a specialty producer. But your business is, we are a sustainable specialty producer that produces the region's finest heirloom tomatoes with 24-hour service and certain features and qualities, again, the tangible and sort of the emotional, that would make those the perfect heirloom tomato for that customer's need. Go deeper than just the very surface of it. And some of you may have seen these commercials. I think they're relatively clever, but Duluth Trading Co., they are leaning into their advertising towards men. I think we would probably agree that they don't necessarily have the female side of things nailed yet. But on the male side, if you're talking about the Buck Naked Performance boxer briefs, now, there's no sweat, no stink, no pinch. Okay, so
everybody that sees that that goes through their mind.
Yes.
I swear to God.
It's so true. Absolutely. Yeah, even when, yeah. So they figured this out, right? They could just be a clothing company, but they're not. They are leaning into, they're owning up to how we are different from everybody else. And actually it appeals to a very large market. Now, Pheasant Run Farm talked a lot on their website about being tenants of the soil. And boy, that struck me, because again, a lot of this is, it's stretching me. It's stretching me to find what's common to a farm of this type and Duluth Trading Company. You know, we might laugh at the examples, but what's common to those is that they really are taking pride in something that's different, something that helps them to stand out. And so all of the messaging that I saw was very thoughtful, bordering on educational, but not in a heavy-handed way, because they want to raise not only general education about this, but they really want to be ambassadors for, and if you're in the audience, I hope this is accurate, but they want to be ambassadors for almost a movement of, we don't want to do damage to the earth. We've been very beneficial and we want to give back, and that comes through in their marketing. So you see how it's not just about the very surface level of your business. It's about the layers beneath it And that's what's going to engage myself, engage all of your customers at a deeper level, a deeper emotional level. Because really what you want to do is you want to give somebody pause. If you've got 10 10 options in front of you for competitors and a customer is taking a look at them, I want them to stop on me and say, well, that's different, because that opens the door for a conversation and a possible sale. Now, I'm getting ready for my trip out here from Denver, Colorado, and I don't know, I believe in this stuff. I think, I've never gotten sick. I've always taken it, so yeah, it works. It completely works. But can somebody tell me what the story of this is? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, so it was a former school teacher. Now, I think I probably heard 6 or 7 voices say teacher. And boy, don't you wish that in a room full of people, somebody could tell the room your story? It's not an exact parallel, because they obviously spend a lot of money to advertise this, but it is as simple as developed by a former school teacher. Airborne products are specifically and specially crafted of vitamins, minerals, and herbs to support your immune system. One sentence, but 6 or 8 people, if not more, knew exactly what that story was. My suggestion is that these are tools that help you get to the point where you can be very specific about how you communicate your business to new customers, because it's not always just about keeping your existing customers. In this competitive market, in our competitive markets, you have to get many, many more new customers, because your current customers aren't going to be there forever, no matter what the relationship you give them. So all of this has led to the brand story. And if we're talking marketing terms, we like the brand story because it's that one sentence on the top of an Airborne box. It's what's easy to say when you talk to a colleague, you talk to another farmer down the street who asks you the question, well, I'm looking for a supplier. Do you have any suggestions? I actually do have a suggestion. And there's the one-liner, because you've got a relationship with a brand and you understand their story well enough that you tell somebody else about it. Because a lot of the new business that you're going to get is not from spending millions of dollars on a Super Bowl ad. I mean, good on you if you've got that kind of cash for the Super Bowl, but I would suggest you spend it otherwise. It's going to be from referral, and it's also going to be from the little things that, the low-hanging fruit, literally, the marketing pitches, the training materials, the website that you have, the social media that you do or don't do. Like, all of these things you control. You don't have to dump a ton of money into this. You have the team that can do it, most likely yourself. So sometimes we talk about the narrative. The narrative's the story. It's just a fancy way to say bigger than just the story. It's the storyline. It's a chapter in a book full of comments and conversations about your business. And this gives you the opportunity in a one-liner to promise your potential customer something that they need. What did I get from Airborne? The hope that my immune system will be able to make it past a coughing neighbor on a plane from Denver. Hope is sometimes good enough. What do you get with the brand story? What does a potential customer get? The customer gets a promise from you that I'm going to give you absolutely everything I have in this product, but you can expect so much more from me. Again, all you want to do is have the opportunity to have that conversation. You want to have the ability to talk more about the product and the level of service that you're going to give them. You want them to pause before checking out one of your competitors. There are a bunch of ways to go about a brand story. These are just some suggestions, but you have famous ones like the underdog. Avis was always second to Hertz, right? This is a common one everybody knows. Well, maybe you're a small player in the industry and you, in the very same way Avis did, you try harder. Problems, you don't like the way the industry is headed right now, and so you want to change things up. It's very similar to redefining. Starting with a problem, coming up with a unique solution. You might have fans out there. We see this a lot of times in cases of wineries, and there's a certain local group of fans who just love a particular wine. Well, our brand story might actually stem from this passion for a particular varietal, or brand story might be born of a group of people who just absolutely love every single Wednesday going and listening to live music at Rustic. Now, opportunities, again, different ways to head. Founders, the founders, in a lot of cases, they don't want the spotlight. They don't want to be celebrity. But if you started your business, do you want customers to hear it straight from you? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But again, when we're talking to customers who want more and more transparency about the brands that they buy and where they spend their money, a lot of times they want to know who you are, what you stand for. Those things are important. A brand story can really give the customer confidence, and it needs to show your confidence that you know what you're doing and that you're the best at what you do. There's a lot of competition out there. How are you different? Have confidence in that statement. It might also be a compass or a statement of good. Like the example I think that was on the paper was Life is Good, the clothing brand. And if you're familiar, Life is Good, if you go to the airports, there are a lot of Life is Good stores now, and they've got little stick figures, and they might be doing any number of different things. But Life is Good's brand story is to spread optimism. That's literally what the founders said. We are going to spread optimism through fun t-shirts and kind of this positive messaging. So use this as an opportunity to maybe again look at what you do. And I hope that we've made some connections in that it's not just about the tangible product, but there's a lot more to that. And then some great examples with Tom's, if you're familiar with the shoe brand. Zappos was one, but Tom's takes a very different approach, and his story is a very honest one about when he was in troubled countries looking at children who were existing without shoes, and the hardships that they faced, not only on a day-to-day level, but just economically and otherwise, just really got to him to the point where he made the commitment that for every shoe sold, a pair would be, or every pair of shoes sold, a pair would be given to someone in need. Now it can't help but strike a heart chord with you. And a lot of people buy from Tom's not only because of the fashion or the comfort or the sizing, however or why you would buy shoes, but they buy from Tom's specifically because of that story and the fact that they give back. Scuffham's Gardens, I I like the story, and they played this out on social media too, which was kind of fun for me because it's not just about the web, or it's not just about the tasting room experience or what's it like on site, but they said 7-year-old son's need for a pumpkin one year for Halloween, and there wasn't a good local source for pumpkins, and so the next year they planted a batch in the backyard, and 35 years later, I believe, the son's involved, and they've got huge acreage of pumpkins. So they could have stopped at, we're a pumpkin farm, but I connected with them in that they had a story. And very strategically speaking, as a side note, it got a lot of press. I actually read this in a couple different interviews by local and regional newspapers and TV stations a number of years ago in a personal interview done with the owners. Now, that is free advertising. I don't need to tell you if the local television station offers to come out and interview you or the team and talk about the current status of the industry, you take that opportunity and don't be afraid. You don't have to be the most polished speaker in the world to give a heartfelt message to people who want to see you succeed. Free advertising like that gets your name out there in ways that paid advertising will never. So I'll get off my soapbox on TVs, but this was a neat opportunity for them to share that message, and it obviously spread to a wider audience if I read it. Subaru, my last examples for you. So Subaru has a campaign that they call Love. It's what makes Subaru Subaru. And it's a very successful campaign and has moved a ton of cars. Now, love Subaru or hate it, you can't argue with the fact that they really struck a chord with the people who buy Subarus, and all of their imagery, all of their advertising, all of their marketing went all in on visually showing that feeling to people. Because as a consumer, I want to be him. And that's what they were hoping for. I want to be the person having that experience. I mean, that's why Subaru's numbers have just gone sky high. Now, the last one is position. And for lack of a better word, it's just how you sit with respect to your competitors. Do you ever objectively take a step back and say, wow, I'm friends, we're peers, but we're also competitors with the 10 farms down the street. What are they doing differently than I am? You may or may not take that time, but that time is so valuable to know what your competitors are doing, because that gives you a context. It's here's where I stand with respect to everybody else. Because how can we, with good conscience, walk into a new opportunity with a potential buyer and say, we've got this, we feel like we're appropriately priced, and they say, well, I've talked to 10 other people, and you know what? I don't see it. I mean, give me something more. If you don't know what those 10 other people are doing, I mean, you probably lost that sale. I'm not trying to be extreme about it, but knowing where your business stands in the bigger context really makes a huge difference. And so go deeper, again, than just product features and qualities to understand how your product, how your offering, how your service is different from the next 10 competitors. Because in that pitch, that same room, you're going to have the opportunity to connect with that buyer potentially emotionally. And it's differentiators. It's what makes you stand out. It's creating the relevance that we talked about this morning. All of these things, voice and promise, personality. Did you ever, stop to think that your business actually has a voice? It has a personality? Okay, it's kind of like your eldest or your youngest child. Second child has more of a personality than the first. However you want to compare it, a brand, a business has a voice and a personality in every contact that they have with a current or prospective customer. It's what your website looks like. Is it information heavy or is it fun? Is it very visual or is it text, written? All of these things speak to your voice and your personality of your brand. And all I'm suggesting is take a look at it from a customer's eyes next time and just ask yourself, would I buy from me? 2 examples and then questions. Southwest Airlines, love them or hate them, I love them. So transparency is their current campaign, and really it's what everybody's asking for right now. It's the same kind of transparency that customers are demanding in terms of food and ingredients and what they put in their body. It's a macro trend which is spilling over into industries you never would have imagined. The airline industry, they leaned into it, and boy, again, they are one of the only profitable airlines. They just continue to kill it. Now, Center Grove Orchard, I really liked the website and kind of the vision, the visuals that they have, the storytelling that they were doing. I feel like they're right there. They're at that point where a lot of these suggestions that we've made and the tools that we've looked at could put them right over the edge because they get it. They know that they need to storytell. They're already doing it. So what we talked about today was really the basis of your company's brand story, how to stand out, how to be different from your competitors with things like your origin statement, a mission statement, the vision, business, story, position. These things might seem a little scary on the slide, but you know what the answers are already. It's just a matter of putting it down on paper and then holding yourself and your team to it. It's going to influence every aspect of your business moving forward, especially from a communications and a marketing perspective. So with that, I would ask, do we have any questions? I know I talked an awful lot. Does it kind of make sense? Just digging a little deeper.
Some questions. So storytelling makes sense, and you've alluded to it a few times, but the how and the when and the where. So on your website, Facebook, and tailoring it to the different kinds of social media. Could you speak about that? I mean, so on websites you have about, there's an opportunity there to tell your story. How much do you say? How little do you say? Those kinds of things and those different sorts of social media content.
Yeah, it's a great question. Just so everybody heard it, we have these tools, but how do you, and I'm paraphrasing, how do we play it out on social media? What areas of the website would you use? The answer is yes, you use all of those things. And it's not just restricted to one piece of real estate on a website. It's not just the About Us. It definitely plays out in the About Us. But again, voice and personality, like we were talking about, would be absolutely every page on the website. It would be reflected in every single post on social. Because when you have an experience with a customer, with a brand, it's cumulative. It's the sum of every single touch point you have with that brand. So if you have a good experience with an owner, a sales rep, if you have a great experience on the website, if the social media, if all of these are saying basically the same message, that's momentum building for your brand. And so I have some slides tomorrow too in the second presentation that go a little deeper into social and digital, but the idea would be most businesses need a mobile website. It's just common now. With that mobile website, it needs to have a number of the visuals and the small paragraphs of the stories that we're talking about, the origin stories and the brand stories. The social media should be on a regular calendar. It should be, to the extent that you and your team are comfortable, at least once or twice a week, relevant posts that all ladder up to what you believe, that brand story, the mission, what you stand for. Those are the vehicles to really communicate that. And then it's events, if you have that opportunity. It's the farmer's market. It's every time that you touch the customer, you need to be consistent about telling that story. And it's not as detailed as you wanted an answer for, and I'm happy to talk to you after about it. Makes sense, though? Yeah. Other questions in the time that we have left?
I think more than that, you've got to make sure that you use all of them, not just that you should or whatever. I used to do a weekly column, and I had a huge flock of people that read it all the time. I knew because they'd come up, oh, I read it, that kind of thing. And I got, I don't know where, session that was talking about Facebook and such like that, and they were showing how you could reach however many, 51% of them, whatever. So I let that go and went to Facebook, and I lost the older readers. Totally lost them. I did pick up the 20 to 40s, but that was foolish. And I don't know that I could reestablish it. So it's, you know what I mean?
Your point's it's an awesome one, because sometimes your customer isn't on Facebook. And, you probably have heard from everyone, you have to be doing social. I don't think that's the case, but it depends on who your customer is. If your customer is in that kind of sweet spot for social right now, which is sort of 35 to 45, as scary as that is, 35 to 45, then yeah, okay, post on a regular schedule and post relevant. But otherwise, I would say, is it about getting in front of customers at events and sponsorships? Is it conferences where you have more of a presence? Is it, from an educational perspective, giving seminars on soil treatment and kind of stewards of the earth style presentations? I don't know how you're communicating with these folks or what you're communicating, but it's not always going to be social.
I've started using Facebook as this is what's there this week. In other words,
Sure.
Just to give heads up. You can't, you've got a shorter attention span, a shorter group, instead of with the column you had, I don't care, quarter page.
Yep.
And then you're into this, and you got to really be so
Thank you.
concise, and you just can't put across the idea unless you've got, you had your mission statement.
Yep.
Well, that does it. But that's one time. And I don't know. It's even less if you get some of the other social things like Twitter and stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's not to say that every Twitter post or every social post has to have a one-liner with your mission statement at the bottom. That's not the point. But
I mean,
every
that feeling across.
exactly
that
right.
of what you're doing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well said. Yes.
It's hard.
I know we're at the end of our time. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions, but I appreciate you folks having me. And if nothing else, please just take a look at your businesses and go a level deeper. Make sure to tell your stories however you tell them. People are looking for that. So thank you.